Hello Capricorn, and welcome to my channel Tarot by Gabrielle. This is going to be a general reading for Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus placements, looking at your connection between you and the person that you are dealing with and are needing to learn the most from right now. We will be pulling for all three sides of this connection. We'll be looking at your energy toward it, their energy toward it, and the energy in between it. The concept being that there are three sides to every story. So we've got your version of the truth, their version of the truth, and this higher level unbiased truth in the middle. This middle section is looking at what is the deeper purpose of the connection and the best way for you to move forward in order to align further with your higher self. Friendly reminder that these are general readings and they are not here to resonate fully for everyone, and they won't resonate for everyone. So do please remember to take what does resonate and helps your personal situation and leave what does not. Last thing is that any information on the extended reading or on booking a personal reading or coaching session with me is in the description box below. I guess that wasn't the last thing. Last thing is that do remember that these readings can be reversed. So, if you resonate more with what's going on over here or vice versa, if you're a cross-watcher, that's totally fine and totally normal. All right, Capricorn, let's start by looking at your energy toward the person you are dealing with. Capricorn side of this connection, please. Wild card. Interesting. I feel like this connection is very, almost has this chaotic vibe. Not saying that you guys are chaotic, but it does feel like there's this up and down, left and right, not really knowing what to expect here, which can cause a lot of anxiety, a lot of frustration, that can have an effect on your self-worth if you're really reading into someone else's actions. Capricorn's energy. You have divine timing. Oh my gosh. Okay. Communication, detachment, interference. Okay. This is just the overall energy. We'll dive in deeper with tarot in a second, but I do feel like there is, with this divine timing card, there's this energy of waiting for a time when this connection is stable, because I don't feel like it's very stable right now. Like I said, it's very up and down, left and right. And I feel like there's this energy of trying to like with this detachment, almost just trying to not care, but I feel like you do care. And I feel like no matter how much you try to not care, it doesn't really help, because at the end of the day, I do feel like you really care here, which isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to care. I know that can definitely require a certain level of vulnerability, and it can make things a little bit more challenging. But I do feel like with this interference and communication card, I see this as one message. I feel like there is a lack of really clear communication here, which is probably why things feel so up and down, left and right, is because you're trying to read into how this person is really feeling, especially if their actions or their behavior is really unpredictable, has this wild card energy, then it might be hard for you to really know what they're thinking, what they're feeling. And we tend to read into people's actions and decisions based on our insecurities and our fears. And so a lot of times what that can do is we can start to assume how someone is feeling or what they're thinking based on how we expect them to feel, even if that's not necessarily the truth. But let's see what this person has going on, this person's energy toward Capricorn. I also feel like just in general, divine timing is very much at work in your love life, maybe even in regard to this connection. This person's energy toward Capricorn. So where are they at? How are they feeling? Oh, okay, not that one. Robotic and detachment. Okay. Separation. All right. There might be a little bit of a game going on here, which is who can pretend that they care the least, even though both people really do care. I think that this person has a tendency to be very surface level, and there's connections. And I see that with the robotic card, because the robotic card can definitely kind of represent emotionless robot kind of energy, right? Now, I'm not saying this person is emotionless, but with the detachment card showing up for them too, they might be very detached from their emotions. So this presenting as if they don't care isn't necessarily coming from the place that they don't care, but almost that they can't tap into the emotional depth that is required to really be vulnerable in that sense. Now, I feel like how you're reading that, right, is, oh, they must not care about me, or, they don't value me, or whatever the case is. So then you go into protection mode and you're like, well, I'm going to detach and I'm going to not care, because it's easier to kind of, protect yourself in that way. And I think that both people do care, but both people aren't being totally upfront and honest about that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the whole burden of that falls on you, right? Like, I think that if you watch my readings and you know this, there's probably more to the story. But let's see. What is the truth of this connection between Capricorn and this person? Truth of this connection between Capricorn and this person. Unfinished business. So both people feel as if there's something unfinished here, as if there's something that hasn't totally, like, this connection hasn't reached its full potential. And I feel like both people are very aware of that. But the surrender card is interesting because it's kind of like that waving the white flag energy. I feel like there might be a little bit of like ego or pride getting in the way here. And there's this need to kind of surrender to that vulnerability. Now, here's what's really hard, is the only thing that we can really control is our side of things, right? So we can surrender that vulnerability. We can be open. We can communicate our feelings and be honest, but that doesn't necessarily mean that somebody's going to reciprocate that. And that's where we have to understand that the only thing that is within our control is how we show up, and how people respond to that ends up really being the answer that we need. So it's hard because, I think sometimes we get into connections with people that can seem very attached or very closed off, or, for lack of a better word, like emotionless. But like, we know they care about us, and we know that they want the connection to succeed, but they don't really show that, or they don't show up in the connection as if that's the truth. And that can be frustrating, because then we're starting to go, well, I know you care about me, but why are you acting like you don't? Or like, why won't you just take off that mask, or just be honest with me, or whatever the case might be? And then we try to control their behavior, and that's where things get a little bit dicey. But let's see, overall theme of this reading for Capricorn. All right. Overall theme of this reading for Capricorn, please. Passion. And then you have free yourself. It's time to take back control of your life. And then you have passion, which says allow your heart and soul to sing with joy. Okay. I feel like this connection there's a lot of passion here. There's a lot of intensity. And I feel like that keeps you really like almost hooked to that, waiting for the stability. Now, I will say, when there's a lot of chemistry and attention and intensity and passion in the connection, that can make things very up and down, because it's like you come together and it's this just explosion of good feelings and intensity, and then there's that separation that occurs, and it's almost like there's this crash, especially when you're dealing with someone who's a little bit like in and out, wishy-washy kind of energy. And I think that what's hard is in this connection, and kind of like what I'm seeing here, is both of you kind of have that vibe. You both kind of have this detachment, this like, oh, it's fine, like, I don't really care, like, do we want? But I feel like what's challenging about this is I do feel like you care, and I feel like that reaction is coming from this place of feeling like this person doesn't care, even though they do, but then their reaction is feeling like you don't care. So it's very hard, because I do feel like there might be some kind of like projection going on here that's making things a little bit more difficult than it might be if there was, true vulnerability here. Now, that's not always easy, and sometimes we are vulnerable and we are honest, and people make us feel bad for it, or they make us feel like unheard, or they don't, care. And I think that when that happens, we can take it very personally, and we can go, oh, this must mean that like I don't have value, or that I'm not good enough for them, or whatever the case might be. But somebody else's inability to reciprocate your intimacy or value what you have to give does not diminish your value. It doesn't deplete your self-worth or take away from what you deserve or what you're capable of having. But sometimes we get into this cycle of attracting people or attracting one specific person that almost makes us feel small or less than what we are, because they're not capable of giving us what we need. So it's almost like that they trick us into believing that we can't be what they need. So there might be something like that going on here too. But let's see. Capricorn side of this connection to the person they are dealing with. This free yourself card makes me feel like there is some sort of a cycle going on here. Let's get more on this story. Let's dive deeper. Okay, Capricorn side of this connection. Capricorn's energy toward this person. Hermit in reverse. There's this feeling very alone, very isolated, or almost like rejected maybe in this connection. And I feel like that's coming from this person's detachment energy here. The Hermit in reverse with the Fool. So you're wanting some sort of new beginning. I feel like that's what you're, with this divine timing, because you have the Fool here. I feel like that's what you're kind of waiting for in this connection. But as things stand right now with this Three of Swords, I feel like things have been pretty painful for you. If there was like some sort of rejection, I feel like one of the biggest things we have to learn is that any kind of rejection is absolutely protection and divine redirection to what is really, truly meant for us. Now, that doesn't make it easier. But when we learn that anything that rejects who we are or what we have to give, when we learn that that isn't coming from this place of we don't have enough to give or we aren't enough, but that thing isn't meant for us, we stop taking it so personally. And I think that for me, one of the hardest things on this journey, especially on the path to like through dating and finding my husband, was I had to get really comfortable with rejection. And the reason for that was because I spent a long time trying to be someone I wasn't in relationships. I would pretend I was okay with certain things, or I would pretend not to have needs, or I'd pretend to just be like the cool girl that didn't need much. But then as the relationship evolved, I did have needs. Like I did have desires in relationships, and those would come out, and then the connection would explode or wouldn't end up working out. And that made me realize that I had to be completely 100% authentic and honest about what I was looking for and what I required in relationships from the beginning. And I feel like in this connection in particular, there's almost this detachment coming from this place of like pretending that you need less than you do, because I feel like you don't want like your needs in a sense, or like what you desire in the connection, to be a burden, or like believing that like who you are isn't enough to be loved, or isn't enough to be able to have the love that you do truly deserve, or maybe you believe you're too much, whatever the case is. With this Hermit in reverse, it's almost like this hiding from your authenticity and from what you really need out of hopes that makes you more valuable. And I feel like what that ultimately led to is, say you play it small, or you hide your needs, or you accept less than what you deserve, and then you're rejected. There's going to be this part of you that goes, wow, I was playing it small and I still wasn't able to find love, or I was pretending not to have needs and I was still too much for this person. And I think that what we have to learn to understand is that rejection doesn't happen because we aren't enough. And I'm not even saying this person did reject you, but if there was like this feeling that they pushed you away, or that they rejected who you were or what you brought to the table, don't look at it as, oh, what I have to give isn't enough or I'm not enough for them. Try to look at it from this place of they didn't have the capacity to give me what I need. Because right now, I feel like there are some things that are being deeply triggered within you with this Knight of Cups in reverse, maybe feelings of being unlovable or being not good enough or being too much or being a burden or whatever the case is because of how things unfolded in this connection. And I feel like, first of all, you might really be reading into this person's behavior, right? You might be reading into how they're acting and the things that they're doing, and it might literally have nothing to do with you. Usually it doesn't. But that doesn't make it not hurt, and that doesn't mean that you're not going to go through all those feelings. But I do definitely feel as if there's this defensiveness here that's come into play of like, if I'm like, it almost feels like you went into defend yourself mode. What can I do to get you to see that I am worthy, that I am valuable, that I am worth it? And I think that is so natural. I think we have a tendency to do that whenever people pull away or whenever people feel like they don't really care or become emotionless about us, is we think that has something to do with us and that it is our job now to explain to them or show them that we are worth the connection or we're worth the love or whatever the case is. And that only ends up hurting us further, because one of the things you absolutely need to know, Capricorn, is that you do not need to prove your worth or your value to anybody. You are not here to prove to anybody that you are worth being loved, okay? That is nobody else's decision to make but you. And I think that before we do fully know that and before we embody that belief, we tend to attract people that make us feel as if we're not lovable. And I feel like in this connection in particular, the reason that this has been so painful for you is because I feel like it's almost made these feelings of like how you don't feel good enough or, valuable or lovable. It almost feels like it's proved those correct, almost as if they are a truth, and they're not. I get why you feel that way, and why this has kind of affected you so much. But I feel like what this connection is getting you to try to see is not that like you aren't good enough, but that this person might not be able to be good enough for you, especially if they are really detached and if they have a tendency to be, like to play it cool and to pretend like they don't care. Like, you deserve someone who's crazy about you and who is like, yes, Capricorn, you're my person and I want everyone to know it. Like, you deserve someone who shows up in a connection and says it's you and who makes you feel chosen. You don't deserve someone that makes you feel like they don't care, even if they do, right? Like, that's not cool. But let's see. What does this person have going on? This person's energy toward Capricorn. This person's energy toward Capricorn. It's not turning all the way around. I like when cards turn around or hit the table with intention, like that. Ooh, okay, 8 of Wands. You have the Queen of Wands here, so you could be dealing with a fire sign. Leo, Aries, Sagittarius. 6 of Cups. Tower in reverse. What else about this? That's confusing. Anything else? No? Okay, let me start reading this and see if we need to get clarity. Okay. This person is, with this 6 of Cups, projecting a lot from their past. I feel like they've had past experiences in love, and I feel like they're putting a lot of that on you. So like, if it's kind of like that vibe of if someone's been cheated on before, it's like everyone cheats. Or if they've been like left, it's like everyone leaves. Like, everyone always screws me over. It's kind of like their expectations are a result of what they've been through. Now, that is the reflection or the sign that somebody is unhealed, that someone hasn't healed from their past. Because in healthy relationships, everybody has a past, right? Everyone's been through stuff, especially, as adults. And the hardest thing is that we have to learn that what we've been through in the past is not the next person that we meet or that we date or that we try to build a connection with. It is not their problem. It is not their fault. They didn't do it. But if we don't fully heal from those things, we will enter into that connection and we will see that person through the lens of those insecurities or those wounds that are created. So when we, from this person's perspective, if they do really care, they already have this expectation that you are going to hurt them like they've been hurt in the past. So instead of caring and being vulnerable and being open about that, they're going to detach. They're going to pretend like they don't care because they don't want to get invested again because they don't want to get hurt, right? So if there was pushing you away or distance creator, this in and out kind of energy, it is absolutely coming from this person not handling their own stuff and basically making it your fault. Now, this is where things get really hard because you could sit there and you could say, I'm not going to hurt you. I love you. I want to be in this connection with you. I want to build with you. But if they aren't doing the work of healing their own wounds and their past, they're not going to hear you. They're not going to believe you. They've probably been told that before, right? And even if your intentions are good, this person is going to read through the lens of what they've been through. Now, here's where the mirror happens because then they behave a certain way, right? They're wishy-washy. They're in and out. Because with this 8 of Wands and this Queen of Wands, I get intensity, really present there in the connection and then just ghosting. It's just because then you have the Tower in reverse. So it's in, here, out. And you're just whoa, what the hell's going on? And I feel what happens is they get close and then they get scared. They get scared because they start to go, oh, this person's going to hurt me just like I've been hurt in the past. Therefore, I'm going to withdraw. I'm going to pull back. I'm going to, make it easier on me because it's that, if you'll never get left if you leave first. You'll never get hurt if you hurt someone first, right? It's a very hurt people kind of mentality. It's not an okay mentality, but it is a very natural response to being hurt in the past. And I think that's where then you are reading this from this perspective of not knowing anything about that. Or maybe you do. Maybe you're aware of their past. But, the way that they're acting, you're going to assume is based on you, right? So when they start to be wishy-washy, when they start to pull back, if there is a rejection, if there is a separation that occurs, you're going to go, what the hell did I do? When in reality, I don't feel like you did anything except get too close. And I think that's where it's really hard is yes, you and this person both see that there's unfinished business, but this person expects things to go poorly. They expect this connection to end or to hurt them like they've been hurt in the past. And I think that what's interesting is then you're reading that behavior and you're reading it through the insecurities of what happened in your past, right? Now, I think that this is where when we're in connections where there's mirrors like this, we have to be willing to understand that we can't control somebody else's behavior. We cannot rationalize with somebody who is unwilling to heal. We cannot communicate with someone who is incapable of hearing us. We cannot be vulnerable with someone who will not be vulnerable with us. Or we can be, but it won't really matter. It'll feel like you're just talking to a brick wall. And I feel in this connection in particular, I do feel you have a lot of empathy and understanding for this person. I do feel you have good intentions. But until this person heals, until this person gets to a level of depth where they get back to this place of, I'm here to love and be loved instead of I'm here to protect myself from getting hurt, then they are not going to be able to give you what it is that you need. And that is literally not your fault, nor is that at all in your control. So I think what's really hard is, yes, there's a lot of potential here. There's a lot of passion here. There's a lot of intensity. It's very, very obvious. And I feel this person comes on really, really strong. And that's maybe where a lot of the in and out energy kind of starts to unfold is you're well, I thought things were so good. It felt so good for so long, or it felt so good in the beginning, or it felt so good sometimes why are we in this place, or why are you so detached, or why won't you commit, or whatever kind of story resonates with you. It's because this person isn't capable of that. They haven't met themselves at the level of healing that they need to do to be able to openly be vulnerable and surrender to the, essentially letting themselves get hurt again, right? And I think that's where, we have to remember that we can only focus on what's within our control. We can't focus on what's going on with anybody else. We can't focus on their decisions. We cannot take their decisions personally. The only thing that we can do is we can make sure that we are showing up as our authentic self, that we're being vulnerable, that we're being honest about who we are, what we want, and what we need in relationships. And if someone doesn't reciprocate that, that's not a reflection that you aren't lovable, or that you can't have the love that you deserve and desire. That's a reflection that the person you are dealing with isn't capable of being that. Now, that doesn't mean that that's forever, right? Sure, this person could heal, they could change, they could grow, but it's not fair for you to put yourself in this painful place of waiting for that to happen and making yourself miserable, waiting on this person to love themselves enough so they can love you. And I think that that's where kind of the deeper lesson of like freeing yourself and making sure that you are taking care of you first is the most important here. In between this connection, you have surrender with unfinished business. We're going to hop on over to the extended, where we're going to dive deeper into this connection, looking at the deeper purpose and the best way for you to move forward in order to align further with your higher self. Thank you so much, Capricorn, as always, for your support of my channel. I do obviously hope that this reading helped and resonated with you in a way that you were needing today. And as always, I wish you nothing but love and healing and all of the wonderful things that you deserve and desire on your journey moving forward. All right, bye, Capricorn.